Hello and welcome back to the Life Unboxed podcast. This is episode 2 now, and today I'm going to be talking about confidence and my relationship with confidence over the years, how I think you can improve your own confidence, and some of the barriers to being a confident person. I'd like to say before we start, thank you so much for the positive feedback on the first episode. It was great to see so many people enjoy it and reach out and say that they found it beneficial. So it's just great to see. And, even if it's just a few people, it means a lot that the stuff I'm producing is useful, interesting, or whatever it may be. So thank you so much for all the positive feedback. But for now, let's dive in on talking about confidence. This topic came up to me because I've been thinking about kind of life. I guess anyone that starts a podcast is slightly thinking about life. But more importantly, what would future me want me to be doing right now? And I've heard some really interesting quotes and people's thoughts on, have a think of where you'll be at in, let's say, 50 years' time. Maybe it'll be 20, it depends how old you are. But for me, I'm 25 at the moment. So 75-year-old me is going to be hopefully comfortable, but they'll be looking back on this life and think, did I do all that I wanted to do? And if not, why not? A general understanding, and perhaps I should find some studies if I can, I'll link them in the show notes, but they don't regret the things that they did do, but they regret the things they didn't try to do. And that's something that I think obviously I'm still very young, being 25, but I've become acutely aware of that one of my biggest fears, and it's not an active fear, and I think it drives me to do better and do more. But the fear is that I'll get to a point in my life where I think, I should have done that. I wish I'd done that. Why didn't I? What stopped me? And that's kind of the framework for this discussion on confidence, because my discussions with friends and family and various people, the thing that holds a lot of people back from doing the things they want to do is their own confidence and belief in themselves as to whether they could do it. And there's more than that as just a factor, but that's part of it. And there's a quote which I found very interesting, and this was by American entrepreneur Alex Hormozy. He said, "Confidence without evidence is delusion. You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt." Now, I really like this quote, and it makes a lot of sense to me when I put real life examples of areas in my life I'm confident in and areas in my life I'm not confident in, and look at the reasons why. So I'll start off. I'm confident in my ability to go to the gym and work out. I'm confident in my ability to run 10K. And there's other examples I could use, but we'll start with those, and we'll start with the 10K. It wasn't that long ago, kind of COVID time, that I didn't run at all. I remember speaking to my girlfriend during COVID and saying, gyms are closed, miserable, I've got to do something, I've got to exercise some way. I'd never been a runner, but I knew that that was one of the only things at that point I could do. But I was really nervous, and I just had no belief or confidence in myself that I could do that. And that's obvious. I'd not run before, so why would I think I could go out and run 5K or 10K, whatever it may be? So what I did is I found this app, and it's a really great app for anyone that wants to get into running. It's called Couch to 5K. It breaks this down, I should say. The end goal of this is to run 5K for this app. But it doesn't just say that go out and run 5K. Some people might be able to do it. Most people probably wouldn't. It wouldn't be a very successful app. But what it does is it breaks it down. It gives you a lot of small wins which can help build up that confidence. It gives you that evidence that Alex Hormozy talks about, that you can do it. At the start of the app, and I can't remember the specifics, but it would be something like you'd go out and run for 30 seconds and you'd walk for a minute. And you'd run for another 30 seconds and you'd walk for a minute. And by the end of it, you've probably run for 5 minutes. It's not enough time to run a 5K, even if some of those crazy Strava suggestions during COVID would say otherwise. Don't know if you saw anyone like that. That was good. Good times. But that gets you a small win. It gets you moving. And for someone like me that hadn't run in that sense ever, I mean, I'd done sport before, but I'd never just gone out and run. I kind of found it boring. But it gets you a small win, and it gets a little bit of confidence. Okay, I can run for 5 minutes, admittedly with breaks, but I can run. Then you slowly progress that up, and by the end of it, you're running 5 kilometers flat out with no breaks, with no walks, but you can do it. The improvements and the changes each week are so small and incremental that you don't really even notice you're improving, but you're just building up that evidence week by week that you can run. I can run for 5 minutes. The next week, well, I ran for 5 minutes. I could probably run for 7 minutes this week. And it builds it up. And it has a really good framing around it. But I think that illustrates what the quote by Hormozy is saying, that I couldn't just look in the mirror at the start of that and say I can run 5K. I mean, I could say it. And you could try your best to believe it. And I think, we'll move on to this in a second, I think there is an element where that can actually help, but you only get the true confidence you can do that, in this case run, by proving to yourself that you can do it. And when you look at it in a way where one end is never having run before, and the other end is 5K, you look at that distance and it seems quite intimidating, and this can apply to other areas of life. But if you break that down, you say, actually, I want to get to 5K, but how about to start with, I just get to running 500 meters, which is much more manageable. It's much more achievable. And then after that, you get to 500 meters. You say, oh, well, if I run 500 meters, I can run for 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer. It's only another 500 meters. I already proved I could do that first 500. And you slowly build that up and you stack up that undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. And I think this applies to all areas of life. And now I'll throw it over to an example of an area I'm not confident in. And there's another part I want to get onto in a second, but I'll stick with what I'm talking about right now. Public speaking is something that I've never really done. I've done it a bit, but what I wanted to talk about here is a situation I had at work the other day. Now, I won't get into the boring details of my day-to-day job. I really like it, but to most it's probably quite boring. I had a call with a client trying to justify why my opinion on something was something he should believe. Now, I'm very confident in my ability to analyze, and what I do for work, I'm very confident in what I put out there. I don't often have face-to-face meetings with clients where I have to say why I believe something. And on this call, it's probably the second time I'd done it, but on this call, I could feel myself kind of clam up, and I felt my heart pulsing. And by the end of it, I thought, I didn't do that great. It wasn't terrible, and I don't know if anyone else even noticed, but I knew in myself I didn't put my best version across. And this isn't surprising. This was my second time speaking in this way, having to justify why what I write and my recommendations should be listened to by someone who's making, multi-million pound decisions on their budget. So it's only natural that I didn't feel confident in my ability to do it. But this brings me on to something that I've developed really well, and I think more by luck than any kind of judgment, and that's my relationship with failure. Because after that call, I kind of sat down and thought, that wasn't good. Overall, I thought it was a failure. But how you respond to failure and setbacks is, to me, such an important thing in enabling you to really do what you want to do. Because I've had countless failures in my life. I've tried to do things like a podcast. Well, this is the first podcast I've done, but I've tried a clothing brand. I've tried to do a fitness Instagram account. I've tried to do streaming during COVID on Twitch, and that all failed. And you can bring this down to smaller things like, I don't know, I've been rejected by girls. I have not got into a certain rugby team. I've had loads and loads of failures over my life, as probably have most people that try things. But what I've developed really well, and I think this only comes from failing a lot, is my confidence in my ability to fail, but not let that set me back. And I think this only comes from, like I say, failing a lot. If you never try to do anything, or you never put yourself in difficult positions, or if you never try to do what you really want to do and what makes you happy, you're not going to know what that failure feels like. And I would frame this in a way that failing under conditions of optimism versus failing under conditions of pessimism is one of the bedrocks of living a successful and happy life. Because these days I fail and I learn from it, I pick myself back up. But I know there's a lot of people that will fail and never try it again because the feeling of failure was so horrible. So if you can develop this kind of bulletproof feeling to failing and rejection, and I want to get onto dating as its own topic, but I remember when I was single, which I'm not anymore, I very rarely used to go up and talk to girls on a night out. And I've thought about it since, and as to why I didn't want to. And, you know, I played rugby, so that was always a helpful thing, and I probably would have been fine a lot of the time. But I think the fear of rejection was a really big thing for me, however many years ago. And that correlated to other parts of my life. I didn't want to try and do this because of, you know, what if someone from school sees I've done a podcast and they laugh at it? It's a thing a lot of people face, and you think, oh, why haven't I started that or given that business a go that I wanted to? Is it because I'm scared it will fail? I think developing that relationship with failure is so important, and I think you can only do that by failing. So I would recommend just trying to do these things. And linking back to what I was saying about 10K and running 5K, it doesn't have to be a huge jump. So to do this podcast and put my face in front of a camera, like that seems like quite a big jump, but I think it's because I've done the smaller steps of failing. And it like I say, it doesn't bother me as much so more. You know, if someone laughs at me, it is what it is. If you're someone, let's say, that really wants to go to the gym, but you're terrified of it, you think, oh, people are going to look at me, I don't know what I'm doing, X, Y, and Z. I get that. I get that completely. It can be an intimidating place. But could you walk to the gym and just get a tour with someone that works there? You don't have to work out, but could you do that first bit? And then you may find, oh, okay, I can go walk and have a look around. That's no pressure. Could you then, next time, if you decide to get a membership, let's say, could you go and just walk on the treadmill in the gym for 10 minutes? So you're around it. You've kind of starting to familiarize yourself with the layout of things. And you may think, you know, yeah, I've been to the gym before now. I think I could go walk on a treadmill. That's fine. So you're taking these small steps to make the real end goal seem more achievable. After that, walk on the treadmill. You may think next time, yeah, okay, I'm going to walk on a treadmill for a bit, and maybe I'll go and use that machine over there for a little bit. I mean, I've seen that other person use it. It looks pretty straightforward. I'll go give that a go. And I think by breaking down challenges in this way, makes them so much more achievable. And while you're doing this, you're building up small wins each time, which then make you feel good as well. I think part of the difficulty of trying to do that final thing, whether it's run 5K, let's say again, for every time you don't do anything, it makes you feel like you can't do it. And I think actually building up these small wins is hugely beneficial to your overall health and happiness. And I'd love to, as I said in the last episode, get onto the science of why this is at some point. But I just feel very passionate about people, especially in the earlier parts of your life, and looking at most of the people who listen to this podcast, they're kind of around my age, 20s, 30s. I don't want anyone that listens to this to get to a point later in life where they regret not trying something because they were scared to do it. We've touched on some other subjects I want to get into at some point. I'll leave them for now, but I want to get into dating as its own subject, and a few more. But I think if you're going to take one thing away from this podcast today, just try and do a small thing. Well, perhaps think of it like this. Think of whatever your goal is. I've used the gym example. I've used the fitness examples. Let's use the dating example. Maybe you're like I was 5 years ago. You think, oh man, I don't want to go up to a girl in a bar because what if she rejects me? That would be terrible. But could you go to a bar and just be there for a little bit? Could you take that first small step, which makes the jump to what your real goal is a little bit less intimidating? And I challenge anyone listening to this, if you think in the back of your head, and I think most people have something where they feel, oh, yeah, I've always wanted to do that, but I've been scared of what this person will think, or I've been worried that I'm going to fail and people will laugh at me. Just see if you can take that first small step, and chances are, even if it goes wrong, it won't be as bad as you think it is. And you'll probably feel good for trying. And it will encourage you just to try a little bit more and try a little bit extra. It would be great if just one person listening just gives that a go. Because it's been an awesome revelation for me in my life. Like, I feel like I can try anything, and if it doesn't work, I'll bounce back and try something else. It's really cool. It's a really cool place to get to, and yeah, I'd love other people to get to that point too. Thank you so much for listening to this or watching it. This has been recorded. It's on YouTube, but it'll also be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you did enjoy it, please leave a rating or follow or both. That would be, it would be so cool. I really want to keep this going and try and do a couple of these episodes a week. I want to bring on people to talk. So even if you're listening, you think I've got some interesting insights into something, it would be cool to have conversations. So do reach out. My Instagram will be in the show notes. And yeah, like I say, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.